All right, peace and blessings. Shalom, shalom. So today I wanted to go over Acts the 15th chapter, and we can just call this the Council at Jerusalem. That's what the scholars got right here. You know, I don't know what's going on, but we're gonna bring out what's really going on here. So today it's gonna be Acts 15, but we're gonna cover a variety of topics here. We're gonna talk about the Pharisees. We're gonna talk about the Gentiles of the quote unquote New Testament. We're gonna talk about circumcision. We're gonna talk about the law. We're gonna talk about what the church is, and we're gonna talk about what being saved is, all at the same time. So let's go ahead. Let's get it.
From the top up?
From the top, let's go ahead and get Acts the 15th chapter, starting at verse 1.
This is the book of Acts, chapter 15 and verse 1. And it reads, "And certain men which came down from Judea taught the brethren and said, Except ye be circumcised after the manner of Moses, ye cannot be saved."
Okay, now we're going to have to touch on 3 or 4 different things in this one verse here. Let's break this down. Now it says, "And certain men which came down from Judea taught the brethren." All right. Does anyone know who these certain men are right here? Which type of men came down and said, "Except you be circumcised after the manner of Moses, you cannot be saved"?
Pharisees.
Exactly. So these certain men here are the Pharisees. And let's talk about who the Pharisees are. We'll pull up what the scholars have for the definition here. It's the Strong's G for Greek 5330. Phariseos. All right. So it says here, a sect that seems to have started after the Jewish exile. This is referring to the Babylonian captivity. After Israel was captured by the Babylonians, after they came out, it says here, in addition to OT books, Old Testament books, the Pharisees recognized an oral tradition and a standard of belief in life. So they made up their own stuff. All right. So in long story short, the Pharisees were over-righteous Jews. All right. The over-righteous Jews. And we're going to talk about what it means to be over-righteous here in a minute, because it sounds like something that you want to do, right? I mean, it's great to be righteous. So being over-righteous is good, right? No, it's not. So they sought for distinction and praise by outward observance of external rites and outward forms of piety, such as ceremonial washings, fastings, prayers, and almsgiving. So everything that you can see and talk about. But when it came to a heart, it was dark. They weren't doing what they needed to be doing behind closed doors. All right, fancying themselves on good works. They held strenuously to a belief in existence of good. Okay, we need anything else here? This part I want to bring out real quick. They were bitter enemies of Yahushua, who the world calls Jesus, and his cause, and were in turn severely rebuked by him for their avarice, ambition, hollow reliance on outward works, and affection of piety in order to gain popularity. So one thing you notice about the quote unquote New Testament is that Christ stayed on these cats, man, on the Pharisees, more than the people that were in sin. You notice that the people that were in outwardly sin that was going slap off. Like, you had the harlot. He told her, pretty much gave her mercy and told her not to sin again, go about your business. But he called the Pharisees vipers and all these different types of things. But why is that? Why was Yahweh Shai on them so heavily? So let's get Deuteronomy chapter 4, start at verse 1.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4 and verse 1. Now therefore hearken, O Israel, unto the statutes and unto the judgments which I teach you, for to do them that ye may live, and go and possess the land which the Lord God of your fathers giveth you.
Okay, keep going.
Ye shall not add unto the word which I command you, neither shall ye diminish aught from it, that ye may keep the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you.
You see that? It's a commandment not to add to the word. All right, that's what being over righteous, when it comes down to it, that's what you do. You add to the word. You say things that are not a sin. You say they are a sin, and therefore you making up your own law. You making up your own words. So, you making yourself a replacement for the Most High because you think your ways, your vain ways are correct. And that's what they were doing. So again, this is a sin because this is a commandment directly. Ye shall not add to the word, which I command you. And I know most of y'all know that this is also in the last book of the Bible, the last chapter of the Bible, Revelation, the 22nd chapter, the 18th verse, I believe, also tells you not to add to his word. Curses and plagues will come upon you. But that's what the Pharisees were doing. All right. And we see a prime example of that right here. Bring this out one more time.
Acts chapter 15, verse 1. And certain men which came down from Judea taught the brethren and said, except ye be circumcised after the manner of Moses, ye cannot be saved.
Okay, what script is that? You know what I'm saying? What precept is that? That's not in the scriptures that you must be circumcised after the manner of Moses, or you cannot be saved. But that's what the Pharisees were teaching men. All right. And that's why Yahweh Shai were on them so much, because they constantly were being over righteous, constantly wanted to appear that they were keeping the law, but they were really off. Okay. Let's get Matthew chapter 23 and verse 23.
This is the book of Matthew, chapter 23 and verse 23. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye pay tithes of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment and mercy and faith. These ought ye to have done, and not to leave the other one undone.
Okay, so you see, they omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. Because that's another thing you do. If you add to the word, you're showing that you have no faith in what's already written. So you're showing that you have more confidence in your own vain thoughts and beliefs than the actual word does. That's what you're showing. All right, no mercy. All right, no judgment. That's what they were omitting. Keep going to verse 24.
Verse 24, ye blind guides, which strain at a gnat and swallow a camel.
That's why Yahweh Shai called them hypocrites, man. Look how small a gnat is. You strain at a gnat. You can't get a gnat down, but you can swallow a whole camel. You see what I'm saying? That's what the Pharisees did. Straining at gnats, the matters that should be easy, like not adding to the law, not adding to the word, but swallowing a camel. All right, and we just getting a little, background here on the Pharisees and who they were and why they were saying these things. All right, real quick, let's get Matthew 15, 1 through 3.
All right. It's the book of Matthew, chapter 15 and verse 1. Then came to Yahushua scribes and Pharisees, which were of Jerusalem, saying.
So there were some scribes that, had their own traditions as well, as we see, but we're going to focus on the Pharisees. Keep going.
Why do thy disciples transgress the traditions of the elders? For they wash not their hands when they eat bread.
It's not that you should not wash your hands before you eat, but you see they making this out to be a whole law. They made this a law that you had to wash your hands before you eat when there was no such law. So keep going.
Verse 3, but he answered and said unto them, why do ye also transgress the commandment of God by your tradition?
You see that word there, your tradition, because they made up their own law. It's actually where the Talmud comes from, with the so-called Jewish, the book that they go by. There's two forms of that, the Babylonian Talmud and whatever the other one is, but that's where that comes from. People making up their own traditions. This sect or this group of Israelites, which were mostly Jews, meaning Israelites of the southern kingdom. All right, but you see, Yahushua was on them constantly. Why you doing your own thing, man? Why you why do you transgress the commandment of the Most High by your tradition? All right, constantly on them cats, man. But I'm saying all that to say that's what was going on right here. All right, even after Yahushua's, going back, beamed up by chariots into heaven, they still going off. They're saying that except you be circumcised, you cannot be saved, and that's not a law written. Now, this is important to understand because, and we're going to read this when we go down this chapter, is that a lot of times in church, they try to teach you that the Israelites, like, Paul and the other men at this council here, were debating over whether to keep the law or not keep the law. It wasn't about keeping the law or not keeping the law at all. It was about circumcision or not to be circumcised. That's what it was about. And let's talk about being circumcised for a minute. I'm pretty sure we're familiar with this, but we'll just talk about it for a brief second here. Let's pull Leviticus 12:3.
This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 12 and verse 3. And in the 8th day, the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised.
So by the law, every boy that's born is supposed to be circumcised, meaning the clippings of the foreskin of the penis is supposed to be, you're supposed to be circumcised, that circumcision that we are familiar with. So on the 8th day. All right, this is the law that they're referring to. And you see in the New Testament, they're always referring to a law in the quote unquote Old Testament, because that's all that was around at that time. So that's another thing. They try to act like, here in Acts, they got their own new thing going on when they constantly referring back to the law that was already written, because that's all they had. And I think I had circumcised here. That's the definition there, but we pretty much already know that. So that's what, but I got that to kind of explain here, as we're going to see. That's what the big deal was about. Paul talked about that a lot, but why did he? That's what we're going to talk about. And the last thing to touch on this verse, you cannot be saved. So let's pull something that we all should know about. Matthew 10 and verse 22.
All right. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 10 and verse 22. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, but he that endureth to the end shall be saved.
You have to endure unto the end to be saved. This Christian ideology of going to church, so-called professing, Jesus Christ as your savior, and now you're saved. Now you can walk out of there and you're saved, ed being a past tense, it's done. That's not a thing. That never was a thing. So right here, even the Pharisees, they're not saying that if you become circumcised, you are now saved in the present time. They're saying that you'll be saved from the fury when Yahweh comes back, okay? Or even if they're not saying that in that way, it's not a present tense thing like you're saved right now and it's done, because that does nothing but make you complacent. So if you think you're saved, why would you continue to read and study the word? You already saved. Your name's already in the book of life. You have nothing to strive for, nothing to work towards. So since I saw that word there, I wanted to, I wanted to touch on that too. All right. Now let's get more in this chapter. I know that was a little bit long on just on one verse, but that's going to help explain a lot for the rest of the chapter. So let's move on to verse 2.
The book of Acts, chapter 15 and verse 2. When therefore Paul and Barnabas had no small dissension and disputation with them, they determined that Paul and Barnabas and a certain other of them should go up to Jerusalem unto the apostles and the elders about this question.
So they was going to discuss this thing, man. That's the council that we're about to have. And Barnabas, he's an Israelite as well, from the tribe of Levi. He was a companion of Paul. So Barnabas is an Israelite as well. So let's keep going. Verse 3.
Verse 3. And being brought on their way by the church, they passed through Phoenicia and Samaria, declaring the conversation of the Gentiles, and they caused great joy unto all the brethren.
Okay, so first of all, by the way of the church, let's talk about this word for a second. So we have to keep in mind that when we see the word church, it's not a church building. When you see the word church in the quote unquote New Testament, it's referring to a gathering of Israelites. All right, even they know it. The scholars here. All right. See the Greek word G1577, ecclesia, ecclesia. So just like you see the book of Ecclesiastes, it's kind of the same root word here. And what does it say? Everything from D on down, nonsense, garbage. Let's get, because it says in a Christian sense. It's not in the scripture, so it's not biblical, so we ain't worry about that. But let's see what it says here. A gathering of citizens called out of their homes into some public place, an assembly of the people convened at the public place of the council for the purpose of deliberating. The assembly of the Israelites. All right, so that's what the church is. It's an assembly of Israelites. There was actually no other group of people ever used for church, the word church in the New Testament. All right, so if you in a church congregation, quote unquote church congregation, you got a bunch of Hamites, Africans, and Indians over there with a dot on their head, and you got Esau up in there, being read. That's not an assembly of Israelites, man. You're not in church. All right, we having church right now. All right, you got Esau in there, and Elam in there. It's trying to, plan out their next attack on us and stuff. That you're not in a congregation of Israelites. So I just want to clear that up. Now, another thing. Let's get these maps right here. Maps right here real quick. Okay, let's boom. All right, Samaria. This is in the northern kingdom. Okay, so when you see them passing through here, the conversion of the Gentiles, this is not referring to just random groups of people like I was just listing. Okay, random nations of people. It's all talking about the same people. This was the capital of the northern kingdom. Samaria was, okay? And Phoenicia, this is just somewhere where Israelites were as well. It says conversion because, like we talked about many times here, you had Israelites. Where my other map at? What is this? Yo, I did not have this. Oh, I think, okay. I was about to say. I was about to get mad. Look at this.
Dang, you was reading Rusty's notes?
Yeah, I said that's Rusty.
Oh, Rusty. Breaking it down. I bet you in the background. All right.
Wow.
All right. So when we see all these different nations of people, okay, these are just where scattered Israelites were. And we're going to get this map in a minute again. I just want to pull that up. Getting a little ahead of myself, but I'm telling y'all what's going on, then we're going to read it and get all of this, what I've been saying. So let's keep going.
Good. Verse 4. And when they were come to Jerusalem, they were received of the church and of the apostles and elders, and they declared all things that God had done with them.
Okay.
But there rose up certain of the sect of the Pharisees which believed, saying that it was needful to circumcise them and to command them to keep the law of Moses.
Okay, so these are, just imagine this. It's just like I used this similar to before. You have someone that's a part of your family. Maybe they got adopted. They didn't know they were a part of your family because something happened with your, the eldest cousin. They gave the son or daughter for adoption. You find them, you draft them back in to your family. You're still the same seed line, but they've been calling themselves, a Johnson or whatever the case is when y'all last name is Rogers. Okay, you drafting them back in. Now, you making it harder for them if the first thing you do is tell them, well, you need to be circumcised. Is that really the most important thing that they need to be told at that point in time? They just understanding who they are according to their heritage and their lineage. They're just understanding that, again, with the same adoption similitude. They just now figuring out, you hit them with some that they don't really know what's going on. And we know anyways, you're supposed to be circumcised on the 8th day. These are grown men and women, man. Well, men in this case. So it's already past this time.
It's a lot.
Huh.
And then also think about how hard that was for them back on then. It wasn't in any so-called surgery room where they put you on under anesthesia and all that. It was a knife, and you was biting down onto something. That's it.
Exactly. So do you really want to tell them that? Is that the first thing that we should be focused on? Exactly. Because we know anyways, it's really about the circumcision of your heart anyway, and that's in the scripture. So we're gonna grab that. But anyway, let's keep going. So we see this sect of Pharisees. Again, those were the same men right here that was teaching that you cannot be saved, unless you were circumcised. So let's keep going. Verse 6.
Verse 6. The apostles and elders came together for to consider of this matter.
So they were discussing it. Keep going.
And when they had been much disputing, Peter rose up and said unto them, Men and brethren, ye know how that a good while ago God made choice among us, that the Gentiles by my mouth should hear the word of the gospel and believe.
Okay. So does anyone know what this verse here is in direct reference to? Peter rose up and said unto them, the Gentiles by my mouth should hear the word of the gospel and believe. This is in direct reference to Acts 10. All right, let's get Acts 10 and verse 34.
It's the book of Acts, chapter 10 and verse 34. Then Peter opened his mouth and said, of a truth, I perceive that God is no respecter of persons.
See, it says Peter opened his mouth. Verse 7, by my mouth should hear the word of the gospel and believe that the Gentiles, who are the Gentiles? The Gentiles are the Israelites that lived in all these different nations here. Well, really more than just this map, but this is some of the Israelites that were at least closer by here to Jerusalem. All right, this is, well, let me get this map for that. This is where, in this area where Yahushua was, okay? But this is where, and that's right around here, the same, this map is just more detailed spot of this area right here. The Israelites were all over the place. You see Galatia, Thessalonica, Philippi. I mean, if you read these and you know, it comes to remembrance when you read the New Testament. Corinth, Island of Patmos, Crete, Cyprus. That's where Barnabas was from. All right, and he was a Israelite from the tribe of Levi. All right, so that's the Gentiles that Peter is referring to by his mouth that would hear the word of the gospel and believe. In Acts 10 and 34, same thing. Keep going.
Acts 10, verse 35. But in every nation, he that feareth him and worketh righteousness is accepted of him.
Uh-oh, looks like I'm wrong. In every nation, right? No, that's still same thing here. Every nation where Israelites are, and not literally the flesh of every nation, not every man and woman of every nation. Because back then you would say, I'm from Cyprus, just like you say you're American today. All right. But again, in church, they try to teach you that this is about everybody. All right. This is one of the chapters in the verses that they pull. All right. So let's get we got to get that too. But let me go back to Acts 10. Now go to verse 36.
Verse 36. The word which the Most High sent unto the children of Israel, preaching peace by Yahushua HaMashiach, he is Lord of all.
You said the Most High, the word which sent the Most High to the children of Edomites?
The word which the Most High sent unto the children of Israel.
Okay. So why would he, Peter be talking about every single nation, meaning literally every person in every nation, which were, they were deep into paganism at this time. They are now today. But just imagine you go into one of those Indian, you go to 7-Eleven or something and you see one of the Indians in there with the red dot in the middle of their head, and you get them the scriptures and be like, all right, well, it's time for you to keep these laws. Hey man, they musty behind gonna kick you out that thing, man. They're not having that.
Oh, my friend. No.
My friend, you do get that thing the Most High. No,
Krishna.
the Most High. I the Most High. They're not gonna be with that. And that's the same way that it was now. I don't know why people try to act like, back then people were just so welcoming to the word. it was way worse with the paganism. You know, they had all type of stuff going on. You could be out with it back then and not be ashamed. People just ashamed now. A lot of people doing witchcraft, you know, they praying to these other gods and things of that nature, but they just feel more ashamed right now because most people profess themselves to be Christian, quote unquote. But they doing it, you know, you especially some women, my goodness, boy, you check in some of their rooms, boy, you're gonna see all types of wickedness and madness. But anyway, that's the point that we trying to make here. You know, God sent it to the children of Israel, preaching peace by Hamashiach. You know, this is the same chapter where they tell you, you know, you can eat whatever you want. And also that now the word is for every single person, and it's not. The Bible has a linear path, a main theme throughout from beginning to end. It didn't switch up out of nowhere. Most High just changed his mind out of nowhere. You know, I saw a meme that said, God is just like, you know, like a quote unquote nigga had a baby and it switched up or something like that. I'm like, man, look at this madness. They really think that the Most High just switched up after his son came on the scene, but it's still about the same exact people, man. Still about the same exact people. All right. Now, we talked about Samaria earlier as well, and I wanted to get this to bring this point home about Samaria being Northern Kingdom Israelites. So let's go to John chapter 4 and verse 7.
Good. It's the book of John, chapter 4 and verse 7. And it reads, there cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Yahushua said unto her, give me to drink.
Keep going.
For his disciples were gone away unto the city to buy meat.
Mm-hmm.
Then saith the woman of Samaria unto him, how is it that thou, being a Jew, askest drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans.
Okay, so this woman of Samaria, she was a Samaritan. She said the Jews have no dealings with them. So what does that mean? Keep going.
Verse 10, Yahushua answered and said unto her, if thou knowest the gift of the Most High, and who it is that saith to thee, give me to drink, thou would have asked of him, and he would have given thee living water.
So you see Yahushua, you know, breaking it down to her. But we know about the living water. I want to get the point about the Samaritan. So keep going.
Verse 11, the woman saith unto him, sir, thou hast nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From whence then hast thou that living water?
All right, here's the point, verse 12.
And art thou greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well and drank thereof himself and his children and his cattle?
No, it's a key word here, a possessive pronoun that's used. It says, are thou greater than our father Israel? Jacob is Israel. Okay, it's the same person. His name was changed to the prince of the power, Jacob, the supplanter. All right, his name was changed into Israel. So are thou greater than our father Israel? Meaning they come from the same lineage. All right, but this woman is a woman of Samaria, right? So she would be considered a Gentile. But you see, Yahushua is acknowledging that they come from the same forefather. Okay, these are the Gentiles that we read, 9 out of 10 times in the quote unquote New Testament. Not every single time. I'm not professing that, because there are times when the word Gentile is used that is referring to the other nations. But most of the time it's referring to the same lineage, the same people, the lost children of Israel, okay, that went off into these other nations after the split of our kingdom. Okay. The kingdom used to be, you hear us say northern and southern kingdom. It used to just be one kingdom, the tabernacles of David. The kingdom of David was combined with all 12 tribes. And then they split. They split into the northern and the southern kingdom. The southern kingdom were all living around in this area. Well, not in this area, but let me use this map. Around in this area in Judea, Jerusalem, around the time Yahushua came on the scene. But the northern kingdom was scattered to all these places, okay? But they were still Israelites of the same lineage. These were Gentiles because they had a Gentile mindset, even spiritually Gentiles. The only thing that made them an Israelite was their flesh, but they didn't know they were Israelites because it had been so long since, they had practiced our customs. They pretty much were just,
just like us.
Just like us, exactly. Just throw it off and not knowing what you're doing. Our people know nothing about who they are, or what they have going on, where they came from, nothing. And that's what the Gentiles are, in the New Testament. So again, we see here that Peter is talking about what happened in Acts 10, because this is after those events, the dream, and Peter realizing that the Gentiles, yes, can be saved as well. And most of the time when you see all people is referring to not just the southern kingdom, the northern kingdom as well. So let's keep going. Verse 8.
Verse 8. And the Most High, which knoweth the hearts, bear them witness, giving them the Holy Ghost, even as he did unto us.
Mm-hmm.
And put no difference between us and them, purifying their hearts by faith.
That's what he's referring to. That's the them here, between us and them. Not them meaning all these other nations of people. I mean, that's kind of silly to think about. Why you put all of these people that don't want nothing to do with you, just putting them all into the fold? People that practice all different type of customs, drinking blood, sacrificing babies, eating babies, all these different types of things that they were doing out in the open. They don't want nothing to do with the Most High, man. You can't just try to put these people into the fold. The word is not for everybody.
Herod just tried to kill Yahushua, and now he in the fold.
Now he in the fold. He tried to kill him before he was even 2. Now he good, huh? But I could do say put no difference between us and them. That's referring to so-called white people then, right?
It's a lot.
Con.
I got a precept. Deuteronomy 4 and verse 19.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4 and verse 19. Unless thou lift up thine eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the host of heaven, should it be driven to worship them and serve them, which the Lord thy God have divided unto all nations under the whole heaven.
So he gave them gods. He gave them other things to worship, whether it's moon, stars, animals, things graven with the hands. They have their own gods. We only have the Most High. That's it.
Con. All right. So purifying their hearts by faith. This is referring to the northern kingdom. Same people, the Israelites. All right. Let's go to verse 10.
Acts 15 and verse 10. Now therefore, why tempt ye the Most High to put a yoke upon the neck of the disciples, which neither our fathers nor we were able to bear?
So this is referring to the law. All right. So it's crazy because, you know, we talk about keeping the law all the time and we're supposed to. But when it gets to the point where you act like the Pharisees and you act like if you don't keep the law the exact way that they say keep the law, that you in sin, is just going to cause a divide between the people. You're going to put a yoke upon the neck of the people. And that's exactly what happened. That's one of the reasons why, you know, Israel split, being over righteous. All right. Because you take away the faith at that point. But again, that's not to say I'm not preaching lawlessness here. I'm not saying that you're not supposed to keep the law or you're supposed to, you know, be haphazard and attempt to break the law. That's not. I'm not saying you're covered by grace. But it does say here clearly that we were not able to bear that yoke. And again, that comes from a lot of over righteousness and putting too much emphasis on the lesser matters of the law and not paying attention to the weightier matters. So straining out a gnat was swallowing a camel. Keep going.
Verse 11. But we believe that through the grace of the Lord Yahushua HaMashiach, we will be saved, even as they.
That's referring to the northern kingdom. Keep going.
Then all the multitude kept silence and gave audience to Barnabas and Paul, declaring what miracles and wonders the Most High had wrought among the Gentiles by them.
That's Acts 10. That's Acts 2. Speaking in tongues. I think I want to talk about that too. But keep going. Verse 13.
Verse 13. And after they had held their peace, James answered, saying, Men and brethren, hearken unto me.
Okay, keep going.
Simeon have declared how the Most High at the first did visit the Gentiles to take out of them a people for his name.
This is talking about Acts 10 again. So Simeon or Peter had declared how the Most High at first did visit the Gentiles, the northern kingdom. It's one of the reasons why Yahushua came back. Okay. To take out of them a people for his name. Let's get Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 11.
This is the book of Ephesians, chapter 2 and verse 11. Wherefore remember that ye being in time past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh made by hands.
In times past called Gentiles in the flesh. You see that? That could only be referring to one people, because the word Gentile is, you know, still used for the other nations, but Paul is, you know, speaking to a particular people called the uncircumcised. And when you see uncircumcised, it also could just be referring to those that are not in the covenant. The Gentiles, physically uncircumcised, but also spiritually uncircumcised. All right. So let me pull this real quick. It's in Deuteronomy. Yeah, Deuteronomy 10. Pull this real quick. 10 and where you at? Lord, Slovakia. All right. Deuteronomy 10 and 16.
Okay. It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 10 and verse 16. And it reads, circumcise therefore the foreskin of your heart and be no more stiff-necked.
You see? So you have a spiritual circumcision as well. Can you literally go in there and take the foreskin of your heart, meaning your mind? Can you literally do that? No. Exactly. So this is not referring to the literal circumcision, okay? It's referring to your spirit, just like the word of, being reborn or being born again, being baptized, letting go of that old man. All right. That's the circumcision of your heart. Okay. The foreskin of your heart, spiritually being born with that living water. All right. So that's what they're referring to here. All right. Let's go back to Ephesians 2, actually. All right. Let's go to verse 12.
Ephesians 2 and verse 12. That at the time ye were without Hamashiach, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel and strangers from the covenant of promise, having no hope and without the Most High in the world.
So at that time you were without Christ, being aliens. What do you call somebody that's not from the land that you're in? You call them an alien. All right, from the commonwealth of Israel. Why did it say, for the commonwealth of Israel, if everybody just all one and the same anyway? Why are we even talking about Israel anymore? We all the same. No matter what nation you are anymore. No, it matters. This was referring to northern kingdom that were cut off into all these, strange lands per se. All right, Corinth, Thessalonica, all right, Galatia, Cyprus, Tarsus, like where Paul is from. That's what this is referring to. And we see nations, Asia, Achaia, Macedonia, Galatia. So that's what this is referring to. Keep going.
Verse 13. But now, Hamashiach Yahushua, ye who sometimes were far off, are made nigh by the blood of Hamashiach.
Okay, keep going.
For he is our peace, who have made both one and have broken down the middle wall of partition between us.
Okay. There was, this used to be a big thing, man. It was a big beef, essentially, use a modern term, between the northern and the southern kingdom. When Yahushua came, that was one of his purposes, is to break down that middle wall of partition between us, meaning the northern and the southern kingdom, so that all men will be able to come back into the covenant. When I say all men, the northern and the southern kingdom, it wasn't just for the Jews, also for the Gentiles, not just for the with Jews and Greeks. That's what that's talking about. Get verse 15.
Verse 15. Having abolished in his flesh the enmity, even the laws of commandments contained in ordinances, for to take in himself of twain a new man, so making peace.
Making peace between the northern and southern kingdom. Because remember, we read here that they had no dealings with them, man. The Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. The southern kingdom have no dealings with the northern kingdom. All right, that's how it went down back then. You have to understand Israelite history, to really be able to understand Israelite business. And that's what the Bible is. It's an Israelite business book. And if it's not for you, it ain't none of your business. All right, you ain't gonna get it because it's not your history. Okay, just like we open up a book, I keep talking about the Indians. Watch them tomorrow. But no, but or whoever it is, if we open up one of their books, we wouldn't understand it because it's not our history. All right. So somebody want to say something?
Wow.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Keep going. Verse 15 in Acts 15.
All right, the book of Acts, chapter 15 and verse 15. And to this agree the words of the prophets, as it is written.
Okay, so we're about to see what the words of the prophets, what did they write? Let's see.
Verse 16, after this I will return and will build again the tabernacle of David, which is fallen down, and I will build again the ruins thereof, and I will set it up.
Wow. So who wrote this and what were they talking about? Which prophet wrote this prophecy? The tabernacle of David. Let's get where this came from in Amos, the 9th chapter. Okay. Verse 11. Now, see, it says the restoration of Israel. Okay, because even they know it. Let's get verse 11.
It's the book of Amos, chapter 9, and verse 11. In that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof, and I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old.
So you see, this is what Peter was talking about. He realized that this prophecy was starting to come to pass. That's why he quoted this in the quote unquote Old Testament. It says the tabernacle of David that is fallen because the northern and southern kingdom split. That's why that tabernacle was fallen. David ruled both kingdoms as it's known now, but at that time it was just the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, let's get that. 2 Samuel chapter 5, and let's start at verse 1.
It's the book of 2 Samuel chapter 5 and verse 1. Then came all the tribes of Israel to David unto Hebron, and spake, saying, Behold, we are thy bone and thy flesh.
So this was in the southern kingdom, if I'm not mistaken. And then you have all the tribes of Israel, meaning the northern kingdom. They came to David, and what did they say? We are thy bone and thy flesh. When you see that in the scriptures, that means that we're family. Okay, we're the same lineage. All right, we are thy bone and thy flesh. Keep going.
Verse 2. Also in time past, when Saul was king over us, that was he that leadeth out and bringeth in Israel. And the Lord said unto thee, thou shalt feed my people Israel, and thou shalt be a captain over Israel.
Keep going.
So all the elders of Israel came to the kingdom of Hebron, and King David made a league with them in Hebron before the Lord, and they anointed David king over Israel.
King over Israel. All right. Keep going.
Verse 4, David was 30 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years.
All right. Here's the point, verse 5.
Verse 5, in Hebron, he reigned over Judah 7 years and 6 months. And in Jerusalem, he reigned 30 and 3 years over all Israel and Judah.
Over Esau and Elamites, what did you say?
Over Israel and Judah.
This is the tabernacle of David. David reigned over all 12 tribes, all the tribes of Israel. Okay, so what Peter is saying is that in those days, that the northern and the southern kingdom would come back together. It had fallen. There was a big split. You know, this family, they broke up. One side of family broke up from the other side of family. They bumped heads. They don't talk no more. They don't recognize each other. But then, you know, somebody came back, said, man, y'all need to chill out with this. This is a very rough, you know, similitude here, but y'all get what I'm saying. Now they're coming back together to come to the same covenant. All right, that branch tree, the olive tree. All right, this is the two witnesses, by the way. You know, Jehovah Witnesses. Who they say the two witnesses are, I don't even know. You know, whatever they got going on, but the two witnesses. All right, is Israel and Judah, the northern and the southern kingdom. That's the tabernacle of David. And that's why they mentioned Amos, the 9th chapter here. Why are they still talking about the quote unquote Old Testament if it's old and it's done away with? If, this book isn't still for the Israelites, why would they be talking about the tabernacle of David? The tabernacle of David included just the 12 tribes. He didn't rule over anyone else, at least directly. You may have had to answer to him, but he was a king of Israel. Okay. Judah and Israel together, not, all these other nations of people. Now, I'm just saying all this because I know how hard they go with Acts 15 and these, Acts 10 and these different chapters trying to act like this is for everybody when it's not. Okay. So we'll go to verse 17.
Acts chapter 15 and verse 17. That the residue of men might seek after the Lord, and all the Gentiles, upon whom my name is called, saith the Lord, who doeth all these things.
On the Gentiles, the northern kingdom, those that were lost. All right. Keep going.
Verse 18. Known unto God are all his works from the beginning of the world.
All right, keep going.
Wherefore my sentence is that we trouble not them, which from among the Gentiles are turned to God.
That we trouble not them. It's just referring to being circumcised or not. Okay. So what he's saying is, why should we trouble them with being circumcised? And they just turn back to the Most High, man. All right. Keep going.
Verse 20. But that we write unto them that they abstain from pollutions of idols and from fornication and from things strangled and from blood.
So they came from nations where they drinking blood. They have all these different idols, all these different types of fornication, where pedophilia is legal. Things like that. That's out in the open. So which one should we focus on? Getting them circumcised when it's past the 8th day of their life, clearly? Or should we tell them to stop worshiping these idols? Stop fornicating, meaning, the things listed in Leviticus, the 18th chapter, idolatry, everything that comes with that, incest, bestiality, all that. That's fornication. Things strangled. All these different things they could be telling them to do. Which one should we focus on? We should write to them and tell them these things. These are the weightier matters. Okay. If we get them circumcised, that could be later, but we should be telling them about the most important things first.
Salat.
Khan.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14, verse 27.
It's the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14 and verse 27. For the worshiping of idols not to be named is the beginning, the cause, and the end of all evil.
So on Paul's using with wisdom here in saying, let's clear them from the first thing that will cause them evil, idolatry.
Exactly. So that's very fitting. Exactly. All right. Let's get verse 21.
Acts chapter 15, verse 21. For Moses of old time hath in every city them that preach him, being read in the synagogues every Sabbath day.
Okay, keep going.
Then pleased it the apostles and elders with the whole church to send chosen men of their own company to Antioch with Paul and Barnabas, namely Judas, surnamed Barnabas, and Silas, chief men among the brethren.
Okay. I had a few more points before we wrapped it up here. Green to the brethren, for the sake of time. Let's go to verse 24.
Verse 24, for as much as we have heard that certain which went out from us have troubled you with words, subverting the souls, saying, ye must be circumcised and keep the law, to whom we gave no such commandment.
So again, this is not referring to the entire law. Paul and the apostles are not telling the people of Israel, because remember, this was about being hold on, let's go up here. I burped like 2-3 times in a row. My bad, y'all. This is a council at Jerusalem. So Paul is not telling them to abstain from the law in its entirety. This is about being circumcised or not being circumcised, which again was a huge issue at this time. That's what they're referring to. But they'll try to read something like verse 24 out of context. All right. Now let's see. For the sake of time, let's see. Last point that I want to get here. Oh, read verse 23.
Verse 23, and they wrote letters by them after this manner. The apostles and elders and brethren send greetings unto the brethren which are of the Gentiles in Antioch and Syria and Cilicia.
Okay, so is Paul an Israelite? It says the brethren which are of the Gentiles. The brethren. So why are Israelites being called Gentiles again here? This is referring to all nations of people. All right, so that's another cut right there, verse 23. The brethren are referred to as Gentiles. Gentiles are referred to as brethren. All right, so the rest of the chapter, based on the context of what we got, you pretty much could go and finish breaking it down, because it's just going into, it says second missionary journey, so on and so forth. But I just wanted to touch on, the Pharisees, the Gentiles again, the debate between being circumcised and not. And also, let's grab this real quick so we can see, let's see, what verse was that? Where Peter, y'all bear with me. Where did Peter talk about before he said this? No, but just get this anyway. Ezekiel 36 and 23.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 36 and verse 23. And I will sanctify my great name, which was profane among the heathen, which ye have profaned in the midst of them. And the heathen shall know that I am the Lord, saith the Lord God, when I shall be sanctified in you before their eyes.
Keep going.
For I will take you from among the heathen and gather you out of all countries, and will bring you into your own land.
All right. Who is this referring to? The house of Israel. Okay. That was profane from among the heathen. The verse I was looking for was verse 14, Acts 15 and 14. Peter has declared how the Most High at first did visit the Gentiles and take out of them a people for his name. Okay. This is what this is referring to. All right. I will sanctify my great name. which was profane among the heathen. Okay. Peter knows the scriptures. He knows this prophecy. That's why he mentioned it again. It's almost a direct reference. Keep going. Verse 24.
Verse 24, for I will take you from among the heathen and gather you out of all countries and will bring you into your own land.
Where is that council at? In Jerusalem. Israelites of the northern kingdom are being taken out of those various countries into their own land. Keep going.
Verse 25, then I will sprinkle clean water upon you, and ye shall be clean. From all your filthiness and from your idols will I cleanse you.
What did they tell them they needed to do? Cleanse themselves from idols, right? No other nation of people, never at any time did we tell them to stop worshiping their idols. All right, the gods of the nations are idols. All right, that's in the scriptures as well. Keep going.
Verse 26, a new heart also will I give you, a new spirit will I put within you, and I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you an heart of flesh.
All right. So to be circumcised of the heart then. All right. That's what that's talking about. It's not talking about, random people being brought back into not brought back, brought into the covenant. Children of Israel, since, they transgressed, they just taken out of the picture. Now everybody in, or I guess they not, since everybody's supposed to be in, why are the children of Israel not in? Because they'll tell you that all at the same time. Well, God forsake Israel because they did this. But I thought you said God came, send his son to the world, planet Earth. So both of them things don't add up. But when you lie, you just, you have to say anything to cover your tracks. But that's all I had on Acts 15. Just wanted to clear up some things there. Yeah, we covered everything I had. Pull it up.
Is it up?
Yeah, that's it.